On the contrary, in such a high-pressure battle, Zhou Fight's martial arts realm had been increasing rapidly with the help of the myriad methods Star Palm and the Heaven martial artist. He was almost at the edge of the supreme will realm. The martial emperor also noticed this. His expression remained unchanged on the surface, but his heart turned gloomy. This Supreme Lord's third reserve army. It was actually so difficult to deal with. With his current strength, not to mention dealing with a middle-stage Supreme Will Realm expert, he could even fight an upper-stage Supreme Will Realm expert. However, he actually failed to kill the other party and instead made the other party become stronger and stronger under his watch. This was the greatest mockery of him. This guy's true strength is not far off even if he not an upper-stage Supreme Will Realm expert. The martial emperor cursed inwardly. At the same time, he was extremely jealous and afraid. This common people's regal was actually so abnormal. He was only a grade 3 Supreme God Realm expert, but he was already almost not weaker than a high-level Supreme Will Realm expert. If he advanced to the Supreme Will Realm in the future, what would happen? At the thought of this, an extremely strong killing intent suddenly arose in his heart. The third reserve army of the Supreme Lord must die. His existence would definitely bring great resistance to them, conquering the Supreme Great Cosmos and even the ultimate Void Cosmos in the future. He had to kill him before he fully matured, even if he had to pay a huge price. At the thought of this, he punched Zhou Fight to the side again, allowing him to retreat from the battlefield. Then, he looked at Zhou Fight and took a deep breath. He then clenched his fist and exerted all his strength. His body emitted a faint golden glow. When Zhou Fight saw this scene, he raised his eyebrows slightly. This was activating the origin power of his will. Even among Supreme Will Realm experts, this move was considered a desperate move. It was not used in life and death battles. He became vigilant. At this moment, the martial emperor suddenly crossed his arms and retracted his right fist. Then, he widened his eyes and punched Zhou Fight with all his might. The strongest martial art, Martial Emperor Fist. It was a simple and unadorned will technique. However, it represented the martial emperor's highest achievement on the path of martial arts, condensing all of his comprehension and killing intent on the path of martial arts. After throwing that punch, the martial emperor panted heavily as if he was exhausted. The light around his body and eyes disappeared. Even his strength had fallen back to the low-level Supreme Will realm. The holy artifacts in his body were also unusable. They turned into 12 streams of light and flew into his inner world to be nurtured again. At this moment, the martial emperor really wanted to rest, because he could sense that he had already lost half of his body's origin. Under such circumstances, he had to rest well to replenish it. Otherwise, his strength would permanently decrease. At this moment, the martial emperor really wanted to rest, because he could sense that he had already lost half of his body's origin. Under such circumstances, he had to rest well to replenish it. Otherwise, his strength would permanently decrease. However, he didn't want to rest, much less rest. He wanted to witness the death of the third reserve army of the Supreme Lord. As long as this fellow perished, he believed that the great Grand Supreme Elder would reward him tenfold or 100-fold for everything he had lost. At this moment, Zhou Fight looked at the huge fist that was flying towards him with a solemn expression. This punch was already not inferior to the attack of a high-level Supreme Will Realm expert. It would probably be difficult to deal with this punch with the strength he used. However, Zhou Fight remained calm. He had a thought. A black cloak appeared in front of him. Then, the black cloak expanded with the wind and quickly became as big as the boundless universe. The martial emperor's fist kept charging into the black cloak. Then, the black cloak shook and expanded as if it was filled. However, after a while, the black cloak returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. What? The martial emperor looked at this scene in disbelief. His full-powered attack had actually disappeared without injuring Zhou Fight at all? What kind of joke was this? He stared at the black cloak and quickly came to a conclusion. However, This conclusion didn't convince him. Instead, it made he even more indignant and jealous. Another high-level will holy artifact, and it's an extremely rare defensive superior will holy artifact. The martial emperor gritted his teeth and looked at Zhou fight indignantly. Just how much was this little fellow favored by the supreme will? This was only a grade 3 supreme god realm, and he already had 2 superior will holy artifacts. Such a luxurious holy artifact configuration was extremely rare even among many supreme will realm experts. Not to mention a mere grade 3 supreme god realm. A grade 3 supreme god realm would not only have a superior will holy artifact. He was not even worthy of a glance. How could he have 2? Wasn't he afraid that the God King Heaven Punishment and the Spring Autumn Dharma Lord would be jealous? When God King Heaven Punishment and Spring Autumn Dharma Lord were supreme gods, they only had one will holy artifact, and it was only a low-level will holy artifact. How could it be as ridiculous as him, who now had 2 superior will holy artifacts? He looked at Zhou fight and realized that Zhou fight was also looking at him coldly. Do you have any other tricks? Use it. Let this emperor take a look. Zhou fight said condescendingly. As a martial emperor, I won't be easily defeated by a brat like you. The martial emperor said with a ferocious expression. Then, he suddenly grabbed his chest with his right hand. Bang! He actually tore through his chest and tore it apart, tearing his heart out of his body. Zhou fight raised his eyebrows. Supreme Will Realm experts had already completely escaped the restraints of the rules. Even their bodies were formed by the power of will. Therefore, no rule-level method could injure a Supreme Will Realm expert. Only the power of will could injure a Supreme Will Realm expert. Zhou fight could also rely on his supreme sacred body and the power of the Yellow River to injure such an existence. The heart was also the absolute hub of the supreme willpower body. With his heart destroyed, even a supreme will realm expert could not survive. From the looks of it, the martial emperor was going all out. That was indeed the case. After the martial emperor took out his heart, his aura weakened again and even went straight to the supreme god level. Soon, he would fall from the supreme will realm to the supreme god level. However, the martial emperor didn't care at all. He took a look at his heart and then looked at Zhou fight with a ferocious smile. Even if I die here today, I want you to die with me. Zhou fight said calmly. Your death will establish the supreme prestige of the common people's regal. From his words, he didn't think that the other party could kill him at all. The martial emperor smiled sinisterly and did something shocking. He actually ate his heart in one bite. In the next second, the martial emperor's aura suddenly soared. In the blink of an eye, it rose to the mid-level supreme will realm, and then to the high-level supreme will realm. I see. Devour your own heart and unleash your last bit of potential? Zhou fight nodded. You're going to die. Perhaps it was because of the last moments of life. The martial emperor's expression was quite calm at this moment. It was impossible to tell that he was a supreme will realm expert who was about to die. Zhou fight shook his head. No. Yes, you're dying. Zhou fight slowly took out the third will holy artifact from his #1 treasure vault after saying that. It was a supreme holy sword that emitted the aura of the Yellow River. Superior will holy artifact, Yellow River, the Arch Sword. The martial emperor's pupils contracted. In the next second, Zhou fight instantly disappeared and appeared in front of the martial emperor. The Yellow River Emperor's sword in his hand slashed hundreds of times, and in the blink of an eye, the martial emperor was reduced to dust. I can't accept this. Why do you have 3 will holy artifacts? The martial emperor's indignant voice sounded. Wrong. 4. Zhou fight took out his 4th superior will holy artifact, which was the last will holy artifact of the Death Whisperer, the Death Scepter. You haven't forced this emperor to use this 4th will holy artifact. With that, he slowly put away all the willpower holy artifacts. At the same time, the martial emperor's corpse in front of him also slowly disappeared, turning into a large number of spoils of war that floated in front of Zhou fight. The martial emperor was dead. Zhou Fight looked at the loots in front of him and could not help but heave a sigh of relief. What a tough guy, he sighed. This was the first time he had to use all means to barely defeat the other party. Such a situation was very rare for the current him. However, as a low-level Supreme Will Realm expert, the Martial Emperor could actually unleash an attack comparable to a high-level Supreme Will Realm expert on his deathbed. Under such circumstances, Zhou Fight was able to kill him. If news of this were to spread, it would be enough to spread throughout the myriad worlds and make Zhou Fight the most famous existence. No, even the Crimson Great Cosmos, the Ultimate Void Cosmos, and even the illusionary Great Cosmos would probably be shocked speechless after hearing his achievements. In the end, he was only a Grade 3 Supreme God Realm after all. However, he could erupt with the combat strength of a high-level Supreme Will Realm expert. Even with the help of the Will Holy Artifact, it was enough to make many Supreme Will Realm experts not dare to underestimate it. Then, he sensed his divine body and couldn't help but shake his head. The battle just now had actually exhausted all the divine power and willpower in his body, and this was under the condition that he had used the king. There was no need to talk about divine power. In terms of willpower, the willpower required by these three Will Holy artifacts was indeed terrifying. Then, he took out a large number of supreme god-level divine herbs and stuffed them into his mouth to replenish his state as he put away the martial emperor's spoils of war in front of him. The martial emperor's spoils of war could be said to be vast. They were enough to fill more than half of the boundless universe. However, most of these loots were the spoils of war of the supreme gods and below. They were born after the heavenly fate Di Huang quadrupled. Zhou Fight was no longer interested in these supreme god-level spoils of war. He directly looked at the spoils of war at the Supreme Will Realm. When he took out all the Supreme Will Realm loots and checked them individually, a faint smile appeared on his face. This guy has quite a number of willpower holy artifacts. He smiled. This guy had a total of 11 low-level Will Holy artifacts. In addition, among the spoils of war that he had dropped were 5 other Will Holy artifacts. However, these 5 Will Holy artifacts were not suitable for martial arts experts. The martial emperor must have known this too, so he kept it in his storage space as a collectible. However, what made Zhou Fight feel a little regretful was that his current Lord Talent, Heavenly Fate Di Huang, was only a Supreme God-level Lord Talent, not a Supreme Will Realm Lord Talent. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dropped 16 Will Holy artifacts. He was going to drop a total of 64 Will Holy artifacts. However, he did not think too much about it. Now, he no longer lacked Will Holy artifacts, so even though he felt a little regretful, he didn't pay much attention to it. Speaking of which, apart from top-notch loots like the Will Holy artifact, in addition, there were a total of 121 other Supreme Will Realm treasures. It included offensive, defensive, cultivation, materials, medicine, secret treasures, and other aspects. Even though they were at most mid-level Supreme Will Realm treasures and did not have any high-level Supreme Will Realm treasures. However, Zhou Fight was already very satisfied. There are 32 combat-type Supreme Will Realm treasures among them. It can be rewarded to my subordinates as a trump card for them to protect themselves. Zhou Fight thought to himself. With the help of the 4 Will Holy artifacts, he already had the combat power of an upper-level Supreme Will Realm expert. Naturally, he would not be interested in such a mediocre mid-level and low-level treasure. However, these treasures were extremely important to his subordinates. They did not have any treasures at the Supreme Will Realm after all. However, they needed to follow him to battle and even begin to fight enemies at the Supreme Will Realm. Without a treasure at the Supreme Will Realm to protect them, they might not even be able to see the enemy before they were killed by the aftershocks of the battle between he and the enemy at the Supreme Will Realm. That wasn't the outcome he wanted to see. Then, he looked at the willpower holy artifact in his number 1 treasure vault and suddenly sighed. He already had so many Will Holy artifacts in his hands, even though there are many Will Holy artifacts that I have no use for. But in the future, I can find an opportunity to make a deal with the Supreme Will. The Supreme Will probably like these holy artifacts. Zhou Fight smiled. Then, with a thought, he saw the world he had specially opened up for battle gradually fade away. Finally, it completely dissipated in the air, revealing the scene outside. Then, he raised his brows, because he saw that his army was actually fighting the army of the illusionary race. The army of the illusionary race was the army of the beginner-grade Master God-tier kingdom. At this moment, the two sides were in a fierce battle. The army of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom did not have the protection of Zhou Fight's Land of Earth, a minister of the king's domain. Therefore, in the face of the conceptual divine power of the illusionist clan, even though they were far superior in terms of military strength, they were still at a disadvantage. When Zhou Fight saw this, he immediately activated the Land of Earth, a minister of the king's law skill. The moment the domain spread out, the army of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom immediately changed from being suppressed to counterattacking. This scene was also seen by the commanders of both sides. Bai Yun and the other generals were naturally pleasantly surprised. His Majesty could actually return safely after fighting that Supreme Will Realm expert. However, what about Supreme Will Realm experts? They were puzzled. At the same time, when God Lord East Heaven saw that Zhou Fight was unharmed, he did not have time to think about why Zhou Fight did not die at the hands of the Martial Emperor. Instead, he immediately searched for the Martial Emperor. In the end, he couldn't find the Martial Emperor even after looking for a long time. He could not help but be stunned. He had seen with his own eyes that Zhou Fight had used the method to create a universe to send him and the Martial Emperor into a universe to fight. Now that Zhou Fight was out, where was the Martial Emperor? Thinking of a possibility, he couldn't help but tremble. Could the Martial Emperor be dead? The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. He knew that before the Martial Emperor, the Death Whisperer, as a powerful Supreme Will Realm expert, had also died at Zhou Fight's hands. Putting aside whether Zhou Fight killed him personally or was killed by the illusionary legendary tier Sage Seal, this already proved that Zhou Fight had the strength to kill a Supreme Will Realm expert. Now that the Martial Emperor had been killed by the other party, it wasn't impossible. At the thought of this, Dong Tian's heart instantly turned ice cold, as if it had sunk to the bottom of the valley. He couldn't help but go crazy. Before the Martial Emperor went to look for Zhou Fight, he had already reminded him repeatedly and emphasized that he could not underestimate Zhou Fight. How did the Martial Emperor die in the end? Including the Martial Emperor, there were already two Supreme Will Realm experts who had died in the hands of a Grade 3 Supreme God Realm expert like Zhou Fight. If word of this got out, their illusionist clan would lose a lot of face. No, this matter would definitely spread. The Supreme Will, would not conceal such an existence. The illusionist clan were going to lose face this time. What do I do? What should I do now? He carefully looked at Zhou Fight as he racked his brains to think of a solution. The Martial Emperor was most likely dead. He had already died. What could a small quasi-Supreme Will Realm expert like him do? They could either wait for death or escape. As for surrendering, Dong Tian didn't even think about it. Among the illusionist clan, there was a Supreme Will Realm powerhouse of the illusionist clan who had mastered the conceptual god of fate. His conceptual god power was called Death of Fate. It was said that his conceptual divine ability could allow him to see the fate of all the illusionist clan. Furthermore, if he wanted to kill any illusionist clan, he only needed to cut off the other party's fate to kill them. Moreover, he could ignore the difference in strength. It was rumored that when the other party was first born, he relied on this conceptual god ability to directly kill a Grade 4 Supreme God expert at that time. At that time, the other party was only a true God tier elementary grade. A true God tier elementary grade killed a Grade 4 Supreme God. Even Zhou Zhou could not do it. However, the other party did it as a member of the conceptual god system. Now that the other party had become a Supreme Will Realm expert, it was no exaggeration to say that he could easily kill a Supreme Will Realm expert of the illusionist clan of the same level. If he surrendered to Zhou Fight, and this news spread to the illusionist clan, he would commit suicide in less than 2 days. Most importantly, neither the ultimate void great cosmos nor the illusionary realm took prisoners. Unless the other party had completely transformed into a living being of the ultimate void great cosmos, or an illusionary legendary tier monster of the illusionary race. Other than that, there was no other example. Run. When Dong Tian thought of this, he turned around and fled, as if he had made a decision. Trying to run? At this moment, a faint voice sounded in his mind. Then, his eyes suddenly darkened. East Heaven had fallen. Zhou Fight retracted his gaze. It was just killing a quasi-supreme, realm illusionist clan. To him, it was like killing chickens and dogs. Then, he personally joined the war and quickly wiped out the illusionary army. Organized the army and revived the soldiers. Then, return to the spaceship and head straight for the divine capital of the East Heaven Divine Kingdom. In half an hour, this emperor wants this land to belong to the blazing sun divine kingdom. Zhou Fight ordered. Yes. The army roared and obeyed. Seeing this, Zhou Fight was about to return to his Grade 4 Supreme God cosmic battleship. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. He looked anxious, but when he saw that Zhou Fight was safe and sound, and that the blazing sun divine kingdom army was fine, he was stunned for a moment before a smile appeared on his face. I knew my brother would be fine. The reincarnation will smiled. I've made you worry. Zhou Fight smiled. The reincarnation will smiled and shook his head. Even though I came here for nothing, as long as you're fine. By the way, where is the martial emperor? The reincarnation will asked. At the same time, he sensed his surroundings. There was the aura of the martial emperor, but why wasn't he here now? Zhou Fight chuckled. The martial emperor has already died in my hands. You used the illusionary legendary tier sage seal? The reincarnation will was stunned before coming to a realization. Zhou Fight shook his head. The martial emperor died before I could use it. In fact, he didn't know how to use it either. The last time the illusionary legendary tier sage seal killed the death whisperer was completely a spontaneous act of the illusionary legendary tier sage seal. At that time, Zhou Fight did not even know what had happened before the death whisperer fell. Therefore, Zhou Fight had never regarded the legendary tier sacred seal as his trump card against the illusionist clan. Speaking of which, previously, he had always felt that his strength could at most deal with a low-level supreme realm expert. Now that he had experienced a true supreme realm battle, this upper limit could be greatly increased. It could barely be considered the combat strength of a high-level supreme realm expert. Zhou Fight thought to himself. Reincarnation was stunned when he heard Zhou Fight's words. He had an unbelievable thought. Is this brother of his telling the truth? He could kill a supreme realm expert without relying on the illusionary legendary tier sage seal? Moreover, it was a supreme realm expert like the martial emperor? He had long heard of the martial emperor's name from the supreme will. The supreme will had once said that the martial emperor's strength could not be underestimated. Even though he was at the low-level supreme realm, if the other party used all his strength, it was enough to exchange 2 moves with a high-level supreme realm expert. If the martial emperor was given enough and suitable opponents, he could be promoted to a willpower expert in the future. For this reason, the supreme will had specially instructed them, who were experts in martial arts among the supreme realm, not to get close to the martial emperor, lest their martial arts realms became food for the other party's growth. However, he did not expect that such an expert would actually be dealt with by his younger brother. He suddenly laughed out loud after being stunned for a moment. Brother, as expected of you. The reincarnation gave a thumbs up. A grade 3 supreme god realm killed a supreme realm expert. Even God King Heaven Punishment and the Spring Autumn Dharma Lord have never achieved such results. When did they kill the first supreme realm expert? Zhou Fight asked curiously. The reincarnation smiled and said, when God King Heaven Punishment was at the quasi-supreme realm, he killed a low-level supreme realm expert. The Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord killed a low-level Supreme, well realm expert when he was a grade 4 Supreme God. Zhou Fight was shocked. He knew how he had killed the martial emperor. He had relied on the legacy of the eternal immortal realm, the supreme sacred body, and 3 superior will holy artifacts to kill the martial emperor. He had such an opportunity, yet it was so difficult to kill him. How did God King Heaven Punishment and Spring Autumn Dharma Lord do it? Could it be that they had similar opportunities as him? Especially since the Spring Autumn Dharma Lord could actually kill a Supreme Will Realm expert when he was a grade 4 Supreme God. However, in this aspect, he was even stronger than the number 1 successor, God King Heaven Punishment. The reincarnation will could tell what he was thinking from Zhou Fight's expression. He smiled and said, "Don't think that Spring Autumn Dharma Lord is stronger than God King Heaven Punishment." The reason why the Spring Autumn Dharma Lord was able to kill a Supreme Will Realm expert when he was a grade 4 Supreme God was because he controlled the River of Time, allowing him to summon his future self from the River of Time. Back then, he summoned 2 future bodies at the low-level Supreme Will Realm to kill that low-level Supreme Will Realm expert. As for God King Heaven Punishment, the reincarnation will took a deep breath, and the blinding light in his eyes shone brightly. He said, back then, he relied on nothing but himself to kill a low-level Supreme Will Realm expert. Zhou Fight was dumbfounded. Zhou Fight was dumbfounded for a while before he gradually calmed down. He could actually kill a low-level Supreme Will Realm expert without relying on any external items? This is simply too heaven-defying. It was as though he had also relied on the 3 Will Holy artifacts to do so. What right did the other party have? Could the God King Heaven Punishment have a complete set of eternal realm expert inheritances? Otherwise, Zhou Fight could not imagine how the other party could kill a Supreme Will Realm expert by himself. How did he do it? Zhou Fight could not help but ask. I don't know either, but the battle results can't be faked. This is something that the Supreme will personally witnessed and acknowledged. The reincarnation will shook his head. However, he thought of something and revealed a mysterious expression. According to rumors, the God King Heaven Punishment has the mysterious inheritance of a powerhouse. The inheritance of that powerhouse is very likely not inferior to the Supreme Will, or even. The reincarnation will did not finish his sentence. However, Zhou Fight had also guessed it. As expected, everyone guessed that God King Heaven Punishment had a suspected eternal immortal realm inheritance. Even experts at the Supreme Will Realm, or even the Willpower Realm, would be envious of such an inheritance. The God King Heaven Punishment would have been killed long ago if not for the protection of the Supreme Will. How could he have grown to this day? Don't underestimate yourself. When reincarnation will saw the shocked expression on Zhou Fight's face, he patted Zhou Fight's shoulder and laughed. The heaven-punishing divine king is indeed invincible. However, you're not inferior to him at all. In fact, everyone will think that you're stronger when news of you spreads. You're a grade 3 Supreme God Realm expert after all. You're not even a grade 4 Supreme God, yet you can kill a Supreme Will Realm expert. Secondly, the Supreme Will Realm expert you killed is a top-notch expert like the Martial Emperor, who is comparable to a high-level Supreme Will Realm expert. You really made me jump. It's fine if you're not famous, but you're doing such a huge thing once you get famous. That's an enemy with high-level Supreme Will Realm battle benefits. Even I can't guarantee a 100% win against an expert of that level. You're going to be famous. From today onwards, no powerhouse in the myriad worlds, including existences like the Supreme Will and the Crimson Overlord, will treat you as a junior. Instead, they will treat you as a top powerhouse worthy of respect and recognition. You're already worthy of the respect of any powerhouse. Reincarnation was greatly comforted. The stronger the common people's regal, the happier he would be. After all, the common people's regal was also someone he valued. The stronger he was, the more it proved that his judgment was right. The Supreme Will Realm experts and even the Supreme Will Realm experts already knew that he admired the common people's regal. If this matter were to spread, he would be even more proud. What are your plans next? Do you want to come with me to find trouble with those Supreme Will Realm experts? The reincarnation will asked. He had already completely treated Zhou Fight as an expert on the same level as him. Therefore, he wanted him to help him. He was also under pressure when facing those supreme will realm experts after all. Is there trouble on my brother's side? Zhou Fight asked curiously. By now, he had figured out some of his elder brother's background. If he could resolve something within his abilities, he would definitely not ask anyone else for help. Now that he had taken the initiative to speak, it only proved that the matter had reached a point that he couldn't resolve personally. Reincarnation will nodded solemnly. The battlefield over there is indeed a little troublesome. After the death reincarnator died, the highest authority of the illusionist clan in the Yellow River region fell to a low-level supreme will realm expert called the Hermit. That guy and another low-level supreme will realm expert, the master of stasis, guarded the Yellow River region together. I could have easily dealt with these two low-level supreme will realm enemies. However, just this morning, that guy actually attracted 5 supreme will realm experts from the Land of Dusk. Among them, there were even 2 high-level supreme will realm experts, 2 mid-level supreme will realm experts, and a low-level supreme will realm expert. At this point, the reincarnation will's expression darkened. He said speechlessly, I can easily deal with 2 low-level supreme will realm experts. However, I can't resolve 7 supreme will realm experts, including 2 high-level supreme will realm experts. The reincarnation will frankly stated the fact that he could not defeat it. Zhou Fight was not surprised. According to what he knew, the reincarnation was only a low-level supreme will realm expert. It was already very shocking that it could resist the pressure of 7 supreme will realm experts. Has the supreme will come to help? Zhou Fight asked. The supreme will said that he has already sent 3 high-level supreme will realm experts over. However, for some reason, he hasn't come over yet. I'm worried that something might have happened. The reincarnation will said solemnly. Zhou Fight nodded. The reincarnation was not someone who would leave others in the lurch. The high-level supreme will realm experts he had sent must have encountered something. An illusory figure appeared in front of them. The 2 of them were stunned. Then, they hurriedly said respectfully, Greetings, Supreme Will. You're right. The Supreme Will said, the 3 high-level Supreme will realm experts I sent were stopped by the illusionary race. It will take at least 3 days to come over. You have to hold on for 3 days before they can come over. I can't do anything. Otherwise, the willpower experts of the illusionary world will also attack. At that time, the Yellow River realm might be destroyed. Zhou Fight and reincarnation will nodded. It was not their first time experiencing such unspoken rules of war, so they naturally understood the high will's difficulties. 3 days. Zhou Fight and the reincarnation will looked at each other and said in unison, Lord Supreme Will, don't worry. We will definitely hold on until reinforcements arrive. The Supreme Will smiled and nodded. Reincarnation will also smiled and said, if it was before, I wouldn't be so confident. Reincarnation will also smiled and said, if it was before, I wouldn't be so confident. The Supreme will looked at Zhou Fight in surprise. Did your strength increase again? He had not paid attention to the Yellow River realm these few days, so he did not know that Zhou Fight already had the combat strength of a Supreme will realm expert. Before Zhou Fight could say anything, the reincarnation will told the Supreme will everything. The Supreme will was also stunned when he knew that Zhou Fight had actually killed Invincible by himself. Then he smiled. Seeing this smile, the reincarnation will secretly clicked his tongue and was excited. He had followed the Supreme Will for so long, but this was the first time he had seen such a brilliant smile appear on the Supreme Will's face. It seemed that he was indeed very satisfied with his younger brother's improvement in strength. Reincarnation will thought happily. Zhou Fight's strength had clearly increased, but at this moment, reincarnation will actually looked even happier than Zhou Fight. Sure, as expected by the reincarnation will, the Supreme will praised Zhou Fight generously. You are no longer inferior to God King Heaven Punishment and Spring Autumn Dharma Lord. The Supreme will said. In fact, he wanted to praise more, but he didn't want Zhou Fight to be too proud, so he praised him without stopping. After you resolve the matter of the Yellow River realm, go to the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord. I left you an opportunity to advance to the Supreme Will Realm with the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord. It'll make your trip worth it. Zhou Fight's eyes lit up, and he nodded vigorously. An opportunity to advance to the Supreme Will Realm. No matter how many of these things he had, he wouldn't mind having more. The Supreme Will smiled and nodded. Then, he chatted with Zhou Zhou and the Reincarnation Will for a while before gradually disappearing. Seeing this, Zhou Fight and the Reincarnation Will discussed how to survive these 3 days. Brother, where are the Supreme Will Realm experts of the 7 illusionary races now? He asked directly. He already felt that he could deal with some Supreme Will Realm experts after knowing the upper limit of his current strength. Therefore, he decided to help the Reincarnation Will share some of the burden. Previously, the 7 of them gathered at the location of the swimming snow sea. The Reincarnation Will said truthfully, "However, when I saw that I could not deal with the joint attack of 7 Supreme Will Realm experts, I immediately led the army and left. They are probably looking for me all over the world right now." Brother, do you know the distribution of them? Zhou Fight asked. I know that. Reincarnation Will nodded and took out a map. Zhou Fight raised his eyebrows slightly after sensing the aura of the map. Supreme Will Realm Treasure. Even though it was not at the level of a Will Holy artifact, it was still very precious. This is the Yellow River Realm map that the Yellow River Realm Origin gave me. It updates the geographical changes and the distribution of life forms in the entire Yellow River Realm in real time. We can see where they has gone from this map in real time. At this point, the Reincarnation Will smiled and looked at Zhou Fight. I was able to obtain this Yellow River Realm map from the source of the Yellow River Realm because I am the master of the Netherworld. The Yellow River Realm is the door to the Netherworld and can be considered a subsidiary world of the Netherworld. That's why I was able to obtain it. Actually, you can do it too. You're now the ruler of the Yellow River region who controls the Yellow River Emperor Sword and the Yellow River Stone Slab after all. If you completely control it, you can directly communicate with the world origin of the Yellow River region. Zhou Fight nodded. However, he had only controlled the Yellow River region for a short period of time. It was impossible for he to do so in a short period of time. He could only temporarily borrow the map obtained by the Reincarnation Will. He looked over and discovered that the 7 Supreme Will Realm experts were divided into 4 parts. 2 of the high-level Supreme Will Realm experts chose to act alone. The other 2 were led by a mid-level Supreme Will Realm expert. These guys are cautious. They knew that if they were alone, it was very likely that they would be attacked by you. Therefore, they chose to join forces to search for your location. Zhou Fight said. Reincarnation Will nodded and said helplessly, I would have killed them one by one if not for them gathering together. Now that they are gathered together, even if I choose the weakest to attack, I won't be able to defeat they in a short period of time. If time drags on and the other Supreme Will Realm experts of the illusionary race catch up, I'll have no choice but to escape. Zhou Fight nodded and voiced his thoughts. Even if we act together, we can't break through these 7 Supreme Will Realm experts in a short period of time. In that case, I have a simple method. Brother, appear first and try your best to stall the Supreme Will Realm experts of the illusionary race. I'll choose one of the groups that is alone and kill them while they are looking for you. Brother, are you confident? Zhou Fight looked at the Reincarnation Will. Reincarnation Will patted his chest and said confidently, Don't worry. In terms of combat strength, I might not be as good as them, but in terms of immortality and procrastination. I'm the Reincarnation Will, and I control the power of reincarnation. In terms of procrastination, apart from Lord Supreme Will and the Crimson Overlord, if I claim to be first, who else would dare to claim to be second? Zhou Fight nodded. It was precisely because the other party had already faced 7 Supreme Will Realm experts head-on and was safe and sound that he handed the most dangerous mission to the other party. Otherwise, he would have gone to delay the other party's mission. With the 4 Will Holy artifacts and the Supreme Sacred Body, his ability to stall for time was not weak. It's decided then. Even though Zhou Fight's method was simple, it was also the most direct and effective. Reincarnation was a decisive person. He had to do it immediately since he had decided to do something. I'll go find an opportunity now. Once we've attracted enough enemies, I'll inform you. At that time, you can attack. The reincarnation said with a serious expression. Don't worry, brother. Zhou Fight nodded. If the last person to be alone is that high-level supreme realm enemy, we'll temporarily give up this opportunity and find another opportunity to lure the enemy. The reincarnation said worriedly, even though he had killed the perverted martial emperor. However, the martial emperor was still a low-level supreme realm expert. There was still a certain gap between him and high-level supreme realm expert, especially a high-level supreme realm expert who was equipped with a holy artifact. He didn't want his brother to take such a huge risk. I'll do what I can. Zhou Fight nodded but did not agree. He knew his brother's worries. However, he hadn't used his full strength when he killed the martial emperor. Be it the Yellow River's power of the Yellow River Slate or the Yellow River Emperor's sword's fatal strike, he had yet to use them to their limits. Therefore, if there was a chance, he really wanted to fight the Illusionist clan at the high-level Supreme realm. However, since he had not done it yet, there was no need to boast in advance. He would do it first. By the way, brother, it's going to be a dangerous trip. See if you can use these. After Zhou Fight finished speaking, he took out all the holy artifacts he had obtained from the martial emperor and let the reincarnation choose. When the reincarnation saw this, he was shocked again. He raised his head and looked at Zhou Fight as if he was looking at a monster. Brother, reincarnation could not help but ask, could these holy artifacts be created by your Lord Talent? No. Zhou Fight didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he shook his head. He didn't expect his Lord Talent to become so famous. These are all the spoils of war I seized from the martial emperor. I can't use some of them, so I'll show them to my brother to see if he can use them. The reincarnation heaved a sigh of relief. If his younger brother could even create so many holy artifacts, then there was no need for him to address each other as brothers. He was directly willing to call the other party daddy. As long as there were enough holy artifacts, even a strong willpower practitioner could be invited to help him after all. They could even exchange for a holy artifact inheritance. Even in the entire ultimate void great cosmos, there were very few holy artifacts after all. The Supreme had roamed the ultimate void great cosmos for many years. With his strength and status, didn't he bring many holy artifacts to the experts of the Supreme great cosmos? It was obvious how rare holy artifacts were. If Zhou Fight really had countless holy artifacts on him, his status could instantly match or even surpass that of the Supreme Lord, God King Heaven Punishment. He could really do whatever he wanted when he was rich. However, the reincarnation admired his younger brother even more after coming back to his senses. The martial emperor had so many holy artifacts. Even if they were only low-level holy artifacts, they were powerful enough to be difficult to deal with. However, his younger brother still killed the other party. There was no doubt about his younger brother's strength. Then, he didn't stand on ceremony with his younger brother. He immediately chose from the 16 holy artifacts. Soon, he chose 3 of the holy artifacts. He equipped them on himself after he got the artifacts to recognize him as their master. Is that all? Zhou Fight was surprised. Only 2 or 3 of the 16 holy artifacts in his hands could be used now. As for the other holy artifacts, he couldn't use them all by himself. Since that was the case, he might as well lend them all out so that he wouldn't waste them in his hands. Even Zhou Fight wanted to go all out, including lending out all the holy artifacts in his hands to increase his chances of winning facing 7 supreme realm enemies. Enough. The reincarnation smiled and said, I already have a complete set of holy artifacts with these 3 holy artifacts. It's useless to me even if I have more. Ha ha ha. Good brother. I'm much more confident in delaying the missions of those supreme realm experts with the 3 holy artifacts you provided. I think the success rate of our plan this time has increased by at least 20%. Zhou Fight smiled and nodded. Then, the two of them discussed the details. The reincarnation will left behind a copy of the Yellow River Realm map and left. Zhou Fight did not leave for the time being. Instead, he looked at the map in front of him, and his gaze landed on the Black State Swamp. This was a famous place in the Yellow River region. A large group of sinful life forms that could not reincarnate were gathered there. They gathered on the swamp of the Black State Swamp in the Yellow River realm, forming various factions of various sizes that fought endlessly against each other. After the arrival of the Illusionist clan, they also attacked the Black State Swamp, but they were strongly resisted by the rebellious evil forces of the Black State. Even though the Illusionist clan still had the upper hand in the end, the Black State Swamp had become one of the few areas in the Yellow River that had not been completely conquered by the Illusionist clan. However, the Illusionist clan was too powerful to be resisted by these small forces. If they abandoned it, this place would eventually be conquered by the Illusionist clan and become their territory. The reason why Zhou Fight paid special attention to this place was not because this place had not been completely conquered, but because 3 of the 7 supreme realm experts of the Illusionary clan were gathered here. Led by a mid-level supreme realm expert of the Illusionary race and 2 low-level supreme realm experts of the Illusionary race. According to the results of the reincarnation will and his discussion, when the reincarnation began to be the target and attracted them to attack, the 3 supreme realm experts in the Black State Swamp were most likely to be alone because they were the furthest away from the other supreme realm experts. In addition, the reincarnation deliberately guided them in their pursuit route. At that time, when the reincarnation began its plan, Zhou Fight would take action to eliminate these 3 supreme realm experts. Then, the plan that they had discussed would most likely succeed. 3 supreme realm experts. Every one of them is carrying at least one holy artifact. It feels a little difficult, but it shouldn't be too difficult. Zhou Fight muttered to himself. After the battle with the Martial Emperor, he had a certain understanding of his own combat strength. Even though the 3 supreme realm experts looked intimidating, there was actually a high chance that he could kill them all in a short period of time. Let's get moving. Zhou Fight put away the Yellow River realm map and immediately led his army to the Black State Swamp. The Black State Swamp. Law skills scattered wantonly on this swamp that few undead approached, like meteors dancing. The 2 forces were engaged in a life-or-death battle on the swamp. The army of the Illusionist clan was attacking from above with the help of the cosmic warships. At the bottom, the flowing swamp Divine Kingdom, one of the 3 major factions in the Black State Swamp, used the city as a defense facility to counterattack. This Divine Kingdom was the territory of a beginner-grade Master God-tier Lord. Judging from the battle situation, the flowing swamp Divine Kingdom had already fallen into an absolute disadvantage because more than half of their defense wall had been destroyed under the continuous attack of the conceptual divine power of the Illusionist clan, and more than 80% of the undead army that was defending and counterattacking in the Divine Kingdom had died. If it weren't for the fact that the surviving undead were all experts of the flowing swamp Divine Kingdom and were defending and counterattacking at the cost of their souls, this flowing swamp Divine Kingdom would have long been destroyed under the powerful offensive of the Illusionary race. However, the current situation was also very bad. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that it would not be long before this group of experts from the flowing swamp Divine Kingdom died. The flowing swamp Divine Kingdom would no longer be able to resist. Among the experts of the flowing swamp Divine Kingdom who insisted on resisting, a skinny expert with a blood-colored punishment tattoo flew out of the city wall of the flowing swamp Divine Kingdom countless times and fought with the experts of the Illusionist clan. Then, he flew back with injuries all over his body and received treatment from the supreme god of his Divine Kingdom, preparing for the next counterattack. Mother Kerr. That quasi-supreme realm expert of the Illusionary clan sneaked up on me and tricked me. Otherwise, I could have killed at least 10 of them and come back to treat them. Flowing Swamp God Lord cursed as he received treatment. Hearing this, the other supreme gods around him also cursed. After cursing, they laughed out loud again. At this moment, A group of servants walked in quickly with a large amount of delicacies. They quickly left after putting down the delicacies. Let's eat now that things have come to this. We'll kill them after replenishing the divine power. After flowing swamp god Lord finished speaking, he immediately sat at the dining table and started eating. The other supreme gods were not restrained at all. They sat beside the flowing swamp god Lord and ate with him. Let me tell you, the illusionist clan is quite law-abiding. I can already sense the aura of the supreme will realm experts behind them. Furthermore, there's more than one of them. However, they actually didn't make a move. Instead, they asked us to fight their subordinates. The flowing swamp god Lord chuckled. If that group of supreme will realm experts had attacked, your god Lord would have died long ago. We are mobile military achievements to the experts of the same level as them. Those supreme will realm experts will not snatch military achievements from their subordinates. That's why they did not take action and let us fight with their subordinates. A supreme god explained. Who cares what they are up to? Another supreme god sneered. We'll drag a few supreme gods of the illusionist clan down with us before we die, since their supreme willpower realm experts aren't going to make a move. It's a win to bring down more than one. All the supreme gods nodded in agreement. The darkness god Lord has fallen. At this moment, a supreme god of the flowing swamp divine kingdom suddenly said. As soon as he finished speaking, the gods who were still discussing fervently suddenly fell silent for a second before continuing to eat as if nothing had happened. I will avenge him. The flowing swamp god Lord gnashed his teeth as he ate the god-tier delicacies. The other supreme gods also made promises. They did not say anything like, should we surrender? What should we do if we lose? Or should we escape? They seemed to be a group of brave warriors who disregarded their lives and were calmly facing their fates. How many restorative medicines are there? The flowing swamp god Lord asked casually. Not much. At most, we can hold on for another 2 hours. The supreme god in charge of logistics also said casually. Does that mean we have another 2 hours to live? Flowing swamp god Lord laughed loudly. Then why aren't you eating more? We won't be able to eat such delicious food when our souls dissipate. So what? Another supreme god said nonchalantly. We can eat with our fallen brothers down there. Are you out of your mind? Flowing swamp god Lord scolded jokingly. You and I are already undead. How can there be a bottom after our souls disintegrate? What if there is? The supreme god refuted him. Idiot. The flowing swamp god Lord cursed. There would be nothing left if his soul dissipated. The supreme god who was scolded did not care. He even boldly snatched the delicacies in front of flowing swamp god Lord. The flowing swamp god Lord also disregarded etiquette and snatched the delicacies with the other party. And so, this delicious meal was finished amidst the laughter and curses of the gods and the exchange of information. I'm full. Let's go. The flowing swamp divine kingdom wiped its mouth, picked up its weapon, and was about to run to the battlefield again. Seeing this, the other supreme gods also flew into the sky with the other god lords. However, the moment they saw the enemy, their expressions changed slightly. 3 existences emitting a terrifying pressure were sitting high in the sky, like supreme gods staring coldly at the living beings below. The supreme will realm experts of the illusionary clan. The flowing swamp god Lord gritted his teeth. What is going on? Didn't these guys not participate in the fight previously? Why are they suddenly standing out now? Actually, these 3 supreme will realm experts were also a little helpless. Normally, they would not fight with these supreme gods since they had subordinates of the supreme gods levels after all. These supreme gods under the supreme will could be left to them to sharpen them and also accumulate military merits for them to improve themselves. They were more or less bullying the weak when they attacked. However, an accident happened. The death of the martial emperor made the fearless king furious. He ordered to send out all the supreme will realm experts and lead his subordinates to find the common people's regal and the reincarnation will as soon as possible and eliminate these 2 fellows. In order to carry out the order and find the common people's regal and the reincarnation will as soon as possible, they could not stay in one place for long. Furthermore, the group of people from the flowing swamp divine kingdom had been resisting desperately. They did not give up even though they knew that they were in a desperate situation. Therefore, they could only take action personally. Even if it would affect the growth of their subordinates, they had to end this war that should have ended long ago. Brothers, looks like we won't be able to drag the enemy down with us. The flowing swamp god lord grinned. Then, his expression turned solemn. Nevertheless, even if we have to face an enemy that far surpasses us, we can't lose face either. Even if we are going to perish, we have to perish on the path of attacking them. Let's show them, and the other worldlings, what we mean by not fearing King Death. There are no cowards in the flowing swamp divine kingdom. Towards the end, he couldn't help but think of his fallen subordinates and roared with tears in his eyes. There are no cowards in the flowing swamp divine kingdom. His subordinates also roared one after another. None of the supreme gods had any thoughts of retreating. This is a battle of existences, where either he dies or I live. They had long realized this point. Therefore, none of them had any intention of retreating. Faced with the surging fighting spirit of the flowing swamp divine kingdom, the low-level supreme will realm expert of the illusionary race, the master of spirit devourers, clapped his hands and praised. What a good scene. What a warrior and brotherhood worthy of praise. Don't waste time. Let's finish this as soon as possible. Then, we'll leave immediately and find the fearless king. Another mid-level supreme will realm expert, spirit sovereign boulder, said coldly. The fearless king has already discovered that fellow, reincarnation will. The other supreme will realm experts have already chased after him. We've already delayed here for too long. If we're any later, we won't even be able to get anything. Yes. The master of spirit devourers and another low-level supreme will realm expert nodded. They were not interested in the military achievements of the supreme gods, but they were too interested in the military achievements of supreme will realm experts. The master of spirit devourers was prepared to deal with them. He pressed his palms together and quickly condensed a divine power ball between his hands. The power emitted by the divine power ball was comparable to the sum of the divine power condensed from the divine power of thousands of supreme gods. It might far exceed the limit of the quasi-supreme will realm. Even though it could not reach the quasi-supreme will realm, it still made flowing swamp god lord and the others tremble in fear. Go! The master of spirit devourers smiled and threw the ball of light in his hand at a grade 4 supreme god not far from the flowing swamp god lord. This divine power ball was extremely fast. The grade 4 supreme god's head had already disappeared before he could even react. Fire illusion. The flowing swamp god lord and the other supreme gods roared. However, this was not the end. After the divine power ball passed through the fire illusion god lord's head, it continued to charge towards the second grade 4 supreme god. The grade 4 supreme god's pupils constricted, and he immediately turned into a black stream of light, wanting to escape. However, the speed of the divine power ball was too fast. Just as he wanted to escape, his head was penetrated by the divine power ball again. The flowing swamp god lord's team lost another god lord. I'll fight it out with you. He saw 2 comrades die in front of him. The 3 grade 4 supreme gods went from fear to anger. They, who felt that it was not a big deal to die, simply erupted with all their courage and teleported away from the spot together, planning to attack the master of spirit devourers together. You overestimate yourself. The master of spirit devourers had a faint mocking smile on his lips. He did not care about the surprise attack of the 3 gods at all. He did not even move. The divine power ball instantly teleported and disappeared. Swish, swish, swish. It appeared 3 times in a row in reality, and each time it appeared, it brought out a corpse. It was the corpses of the 3 supreme gods in the flowing swamp god lord's team who had teleported away and wanted to ambush the master of spirit devourers. The deities were all terrified when they saw this scene. Was this the supreme realm? Even if it was just a casual attack that made them have no intention of resisting and could only watch as death descended on them. What a despairing thought. How boring. The master of spirit devourers even yawned. The divine powerball that he used was just a method he used to deal with the soldiers when he was at the supreme god realm. Even the flowing swamp god lords were unable to deal with such supreme god-level techniques after him, used them, let alone supreme will realm techniques or his conceptual god powers. At the same time, the supreme gods beside the flowing swamp god lord were also using various methods. Some wanted to rush to the master of spirit devourer's side and deal with him. Some used various law skills to shatter the divine powerball. Some used other control-type law skills to affect the master of spirit devourer's control of the divine powerball and help them gain a breather. However, they all failed. Those who wanted to deal with the master of spirit devourers were killed by the divine powerball before they could rush over. They lost their lives in vain. Those who wanted to shatter the divine powerball discovered that the sturdiness of the divine powerball was beyond their imagination. Their nomological skills could not injure it at all. The supreme god who wanted to use a control-type law skill was even more delusional in a desperate situation. How could the supreme god control a supreme will realm expert? It was just a waste of energy. Flowing swamp god lord's eyes were red as he watched his brothers die in front of him, one by one. It was unknown if it was intentional or not, but after the divine powerball killed most of the supreme gods, it actually left the flowing swamp god lord behind. How could he not guess what he meant after he saw this scene? This was to make he completely recognize the truth and despair. When the master of spirit devourers saw this scene, he could not help but sneer. Haha. A few mere supreme gods and a quasi-supreme will realm expert actually stopped us for so long. I'll let you know the difference in strength. Previously, I was merely using you all to train our juniors. With that, the master of spirit devourers no longer had the intention to play with the other party. They still had to deal with the reincarnation will after all. Go! The divine powerball rushed towards the flowing swamp god lord with a thought from him. Facing the attack of the master of spirit devourers, even though flowing swamp god lord knew that he could not block it, he still chose to erupt with all his might and prepared to defend with all his might. He punched the divine powerball before his face turned pale. He missed. Buzz, the divine powerball quietly appeared behind him and instantly rushed towards his head. Flowing swamp god lord had a calm expression and decided to throw his life away. At this critical moment, a figure suddenly appeared between the ball of light and flowing swamp god lord. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed the ball of divine power in an instant. Then, he exerted force, and the ball of light that was condensed with the divine power of countless supreme gods actually shattered directly. The master of spirit devourers and the other two supreme will realm experts narrowed their eyes slightly at Zhou Fight, who had suddenly appeared. The flowing swamp god lord was also stunned. He turned his head to look. He immediately said excitedly after discovering the person, Lord Common People's Regal. Even though they were the undead of the Yellow River region, the name Common People's Regal was still well known. Zhou Fight did not say anything. He only frowned slightly as he looked at everything around him and the ruined flowing swamp divine capital below. We're still a step behind. He frowned slightly and muttered to himself. It couldn't be helped. The place where he was previously was very far from the Black State Swamp. To be able to rush over at this time was already the result of him advancing at full speed. The destruction of the divine soul. It's not impossible to revive. Zhou Fight thought to himself. There was only one way to revive him with his divine soul destroyed. That was to turn back time. Coincidentally, there happened to be a quasi-supreme will realm expert who was good at the Tao of time among the many supreme gods under him. Zhou Fight had the myriad method star palm. If he borrowed its ability, it would naturally not be a problem for him to revive this group of undead. As for why he wanted to revive this group of undead, naturally, he had already learned what had just happened here. Even though this group of sinful and evil life forms had done many wrong things when they were alive, since they had already died and become undead, there was no need to keep chasing and criticizing them. Even criminals would one day be released after serving their sentence after all. Also, he had to reward them for their contributions since these guys were brave enough to resist the illusionist clan until they died in battle. Then his resurrection would be the reward of this fallen supreme god. These thoughts flashed across Zhou Fight's mind. He looked up at the master of spirit devourers and the other two supreme realm experts of the illusionary race, ignoring the flowing swamp god lord who was looking at him fanatically. A faint smile appeared on his face. Found you. You're the common people's regal? The master of spirit devourers and the other supreme realm experts stared at Zhou Fight and asked. There was a certain tone in their tone even though they were asking. It was obvious that Zhou Fight's identity had been confirmed. Zhou Fight smiled and didn't answer. He waved his hand casually and released a group of cosmic battleships. Then, a large number of troops of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom flew out of the cosmic battleships and confronted the illusionist clan's army, led by the master of spirit devourers and other supreme realm experts of the illusionist clan. We're asking you a question. Are you the common people's regal? Disrespectful junior. Even if you and I are enemies, respecting the strong is also a basic principle. Faced with Zhou Fight's silence, the expressions of the master of spirit devourers and the other supreme realm experts darkened as they asked coldly. This emperor doesn't like to talk to the god of death. Zhou Fight said calmly. Arrogant. The master of spirit devourers and the other two supreme realm experts immediately widened their eyes in anger and looked at Zhou Fight with killing intent. They were three supreme realm experts. Even if the martial emperor came, he would have to retreat obediently in the face of their combined forces and the other two. He did not expect to encounter a fellow like Zhou Fight who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. The flowing swamp god lord, who was behind him, widened his eyes and looked at Zhou Fight in shock and admiration. He didn't expect it either. In the face of three supreme realm experts, the common people's regal, who was only a grade 3 supreme god realm expert, was actually so calm and composed. He even said that these three supreme realm experts were dead. Arrogant. How arrogant? He was too arrogant. However, this arrogance really made him like and even worship him. He, the flowing swamp god lord. He thought that he was already a very arrogant god lord. Even when facing a supreme realm expert, he would definitely not submit. He would even dare to lead his brothers to charge at a supreme realm expert at the most dangerous moment. In front of any god spirit, such an action was enough for them to call themselves warriors. However, in front of the arrogance of this common people's regal, his arrogance seemed to be insufficient. As expected of the last Supreme Lord Reserve Army, selected by the Supreme Will, the flowing swamp godlord thought. Then, he became curious. If the common people's regal was so arrogant, then did he have the confidence to be so arrogant? Zhou Fight seemed to have heard what flowing swamp godlord was thinking and quickly gave he an answer. Zhou Fight was very calm in the face of the angry gazes of the master of spirit devourers and the other two supreme realm experts. They were right. Even the martial emperor could only retreat in defeat in front of the three of them. However, he was no longer he when he fought the martial emperor. The current him was already stronger than the him back then. Attack. The master of spirit devourers looked at each other and chose to attack together to deal with Zhou Fight, a grade 3 supreme god realm. Even the flowing swamp god lord's eyes widened at this scene. Good God. 3 supreme realm experts dealing with a grade 3 supreme god realm expert together? Are you all shameless? However, Zhou Fight was very calm. He clenched his fist slightly and used King to immediately raise his cultivation level to a level infinitely close to the low-level supreme realm. Then, with a thought, a total of 7 holy artifacts were attached to him. The two most obvious holy artifacts were the high-level holy artifact, Yellow River Slate, and the high-level holy artifact, Yellow River the Arch Sword. The Yellow River stone slab emitted a dense yellow light. Powerful Yellow River power surged out of the Yellow River stone slab and surged into Zhou Fight's divine body. instantly increasing his strength to the level of a low-level supreme will realm expert. The total amount of Yellow River's power is limited. I'll save as much as possible. Zhou Fight thought to himself. The strength of a low-level supreme will realm expert was enough for him to use all his current methods in a short period of time. The Master of Spirit Devourers and the other Supreme Will Realm experts were also shocked when they saw Zhou Fight's strength instantly increase to the low-level Supreme Will Realm. However, they quickly came back to their senses and continued to charge at Zhou Fight. How could a low-level Supreme Will Realm expert compare to the encirclement of the three experts? This common people's regal would definitely die today. The military merits on him that were comparable to high-level Supreme Will Realm experts must belong to them. Compared to the common people's regal, even the military merits on the reincarnation will were much lesser. Zhou Fight instantly disappeared from the spot seeing this. In the next moment, he had already appeared in the center of the three illusionist clan experts. He first slashed at one of the Master of Spirit Devourer's arms and severed it. Then, he kicked another low-level Supreme Will Realm expert, causing him to vomit blood. Then, he used the reaction force to fly towards the middle stage Supreme Will Realm expert, Spiritual Venerable Boulder, and quickly arrived in front of him. Zhou Fight thrust his sword over, only to discover that this fellow's physical defense was extremely strong. At this moment, the Xian Yuan Divine Sword, a low-level Will Holy artifact, actually failed to break through his opponent's defense. A look of surprise flashed in his eyes. Not only is my physical defense strong, I'm also wearing a defensive Will Holy artifact on the surface. You want to break my defense with just a low-level Will Holy artifact? Dream on, the Spiritual Venerable Boulder said coldly. With that, he quickly approached the other party and engaged in close combat with Zhou Fight. Only then did Zhou Fight realize that the Spiritual Venerable Boulder was also a martial arts expert. Even though it could not compare to a martial emperor, it had already reached the martial arts level of the Supreme Will Realm. The two of them began to fight quickly. As a martial arts expert at the Supreme Will Realm, he had a contemptuous attitude towards the common people's regal for actually daring to fight him in close combat. However, the Spiritual Venerable Boulder's expression suddenly changed not long after they fought. This was because he discovered that the other party could actually suppress him with pure martial arts. He was a martial Dao expert at the low-level Supreme Will Realm, and the other party was actually stronger than him. More importantly, he actually felt a familiar feeling from the other party's martial arts path. Martial Emperor style. The Spiritual Venerable Boulder suddenly reacted, and then he felt that something was wrong. No, it's a little similar, but it's not completely similar. This isn't the Martial Emperor style. As Zhou Fight fought and suppressed the other party, he said, "This is this emperor's martial arts. You can call it the common people's martial arts." He had already sorted out all the martial emperor's spoils of war before he came. Then, he discovered a legacy that was not weaker than a Will Holy artifact. That was the martial emperor's martial arts legacy. Zhou Fight immediately learned it and combined it with his own understanding of martial arts to create this martial arts path. This common people's martial arts had already surpassed the martial emperor style and become a martial arts path that was infinitely close to the high-level Supreme Will Realm. This was also the reason why Zhou Fight was able to suppress the Spiritual Venerable Boulder. The Spiritual Venerable Boulder looked at Zhou Fight's face and felt a chill run down his spine. Such a young junior had actually created a martial arts path comparable to mid-level Supreme Will Realm with just the grade 3 Supreme God Realm. What kind of monstrous talent was this? What would happen if he continued to grow? In the future, he might grow into an existence like the Supreme Will. At that time, if the illusionist clan wanted to break through the Supreme Great Cosmos and use the Supreme Great Cosmos as a springboard to attack the ultimate void Great Cosmos, the difficulty would definitely increase again. This guy could not be left alive. This thought appeared in Spiritual Venerable Boulder's mind. He wanted to kill Zhou Fight, but the huge difference in martial arts realm made it impossible for him to injure Zhou Fight. On the other hand, he had suffered repeated setbacks in the face of Zhou Fight's attacks. If he didn't have extremely strong physical defense and wasn't wearing a defensive mid-level will holy artifact, he would probably be covered in injuries by now. Fortunately, the two low-level Supreme Will Realm experts of the Master of Spirit Devourers quickly arrived. The three of them joined forces to suppress Zhou fight, and they finally barely reached a draw. However, it was only a draw. With the support of the seven will holy artifacts, the supreme sacred body, and the common people's martial arts, Zhou fight's strength far exceeded their imaginations. Even if three low-level Supreme Will Realm experts with will holy artifacts joined forces, it was still very difficult to fight Zhou fight. If he was not careful, he would leave an injury caused by the Xian Yuan divine sword on his body. Only spiritual venerable Boulder was slightly better off with his powerful defense, but he was still suppressed. D***. This guy is actually so strong. The Supreme Will Realm experts of the three illusionary races were very shocked. The three god spirits looked at each other and nodded slightly. The spiritual venerable Boulder's body suddenly emitted a dense white rock light. Conceptual god ability, stone armor. It could reflect all attacks on the body. Zhou fight punched the other party's body and actually felt the same force coming from the other party's body. Fortunately, he was wearing a will holy artifact and had the supreme sacred body, so the rebounding force did not injure him at all. On the other side, the Master of Spirit Devourers and another low-level Supreme Will Realm expert also launched the Concept God attack. The conceptual divine power of the Master of Spirit Devourers was called Spirit Devourers. It was similar to spiritual venerable Boulder. He could absorb energy attacks and store them in its body. He could use the energy it absorbed however he wanted. The divine power ball that he had used to attack the flowing swamp god lord was the energy ball that he had gathered from the supreme god enemies he had faced when he was still a supreme god. The flowing swamp god lords, they were already helpless against a divine power ball of that level. However, the Master of Spirit Devourers had witnessed the scene of Zhou fight exploding the divine power ball with one hand and knew that ordinary attacks had no effect on Zhou fight. Therefore, he hardened his heart and directly gathered nearly 90% of the divine power and willpower in his body, forming a super energy ball with astonishing might. The power of this super energy ball was so great that Zhou fight and the other two Supreme Will Realm experts were attracted. A move at the upper Supreme Will Realm. Zhou fight raised his eyebrows in surprise. He did not expect this fellow to use the strongest attack. He was called the Master of Stasis as for the last Supreme Will Realm expert of the illusionary race. His ability was to freeze time. This conceptual god ability was actually not outstanding. Many experts who walked the Tao of time in the supreme great cosmos knew this move. Therefore, Zhou fight only took a glance before retracting his gaze. He looked at these three Supreme Will Realm experts with a very calm expression. He did not panic at all. He did not even activate the power of the Yellow River to raise his level to the middle or upper Supreme Will Realm. Clearly, in Zhou fight's opinion, the current situation was not worth he wasting the power of the Yellow River to become stronger. Since you've all used your true abilities, then this emperor will play with you guys too. Zhou fight's eyes lit up. In an instant, Law Domain Skill, Land of Earth, a Minister of the King. Under the activation of the power of the Yellow River, the power of the Land of Earth, a Minister of the King was almost not inferior to a low-level will skill of the same level. When it was at the grade 3 Supreme God Realm, it could suppress the domain of a low-level Supreme Will Realm expert and the strength of a low-level Supreme Will Realm expert. Once the Land of Earth, a Minister of the King, which was already comparable to a low-level will holy artifact, was used, the three low-level Supreme Will Realm experts of the Illusionist clan and even the army of the Illusionist clan led by they felt that their strength and conceptual god abilities were greatly suppressed. What kind of will skill is this? It's actually suppressing us so much. The spiritual venerable Boulder and them were instantly shocked. Zhou fight did not stop. He put away the Xian Yuan divine sword. With a thought, he finally took out the high-level will holy artifact, the Yellow River Emperor's sword. As soon as this will holy artifact was taken out, the spiritual venerable Boulder and them immediately felt a shocking sense of threat from this sword. It's a superior will holy artifact. They could not hide their surprise. At this moment, Zhou Fight was already flying towards them. His first target was spiritual venerable Boulder, who was confident in his strong defense.